Cape. You're with us. Good afternoon to you. What's the expectation in Cape Town?
Well, Jeremy, this morning, this economic recovery plan already getting quite a bit of discussion in Parliament's programming committee meeting. That is where Parliament discusses its programme for the weeks ahead, and a lot of unhappiness expressed by chief whips of opposition parties that today's address by the President won't be immediately debated. So opposition parties saying no point the President putting this plan on the table, giving a speech essentially to the House, but not allowing opposition parties to engage with that plan. And after some extensive, robust debate, the Speaker of the House, Thandi Modise, is saying that this plan is going to be treated like a State of the Nation address. They will want the President to respond to questions from the floor. There will be a proper debate. Jeremy, last we heard those time frames not exactly pinned down. There were some suggestions, given that the medium-term budget policy statement now, Parliament has agreed to postpone it by a week, that original date next week, Wednesday, be used as the opportunity for Parliament to discuss and to debate that economic recovery plan. So the Speaker saying today that by the end of today, possibly a date needs to be nailed down with the Presidency that will allow members in the House to engage with the plan and for the President to respond to that plan. But with me, I have the DA's spokesperson on finance, Jordan Hill-Lewis, to tell us a little bit about what they are expecting to hear from the President this afternoon. Jordan, thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure.
So as you heard, there are a lot of contention about what the President will say from your party side. What do you want to hear him say?
Well, Lindsay, the reform agenda has actually been quite consistent for the last 2 or 3 years. We've heard the same plans time and time again, way back to President Ramaphosa's first State of the Nation right here at Parliament after he was elected. The issue is not so much the content of the plan, more than progress on delivering on those much-needed reforms. And, of course, all that's happened is that they've become much more urgent over the years, and certainly after this lockdown crisis, more urgent than ever. It's a turning point moment for the economy. Really, it is a crossroads. If we do not implement these reforms now, the economy gets to a point where it will struggle to recover ever. So it is absolutely urgent that the President displays genuine commitment to actually making these things happen, and consequences if they don't happen. If ministers who are responsible for these reforms drag their feet and the reforms don't happen in a reasonable amount of time, then those ministers need to be replaced.
Jordan, but let's speak about those reforms. What are the reforms you want to see the President put on the table this afternoon?
The first and most important one is a genuine commitment to get public spending and public debt under control. We simply cannot afford to pay for basic public services if we are spending so much money servicing our debt every year. Without that, all the other reforms can't happen. The second most obvious one is sorting out the crisis at Eskom. The President is often committed to splitting up the company and to allowing particularly big cities like Johannesburg and Cape Town to buy their own power from IPPs, and allowing IPPs, independent power producers, into the grid to break up the Eskom monopoly. And again, there's been very, very slow progress on actually making any of this happen. In fact, Eskom has recently said the split up of the company is delayed indefinitely. And this is what I'm saying, the widening gap between the promise of reform and action on reform. And that credibility gap has to close today.
Many is going to want to see this afternoon how we're going to create jobs. What sectors are you proposing the President look at to create jobs as fast as possible?
Jobs are created in a growing economy. The problem is that our economy is not growing at all. All of these reforms, and there's more than 20 of them, all of them are aimed at turning the economy from a shrinking condition where the state exercises ever-growing control over a smaller economy to one in which entrepreneurs and so many talented and innovative people in South Africa are trusted to actually invest and grow. So all of these reforms are necessary to create jobs. All of them are necessary to grow the economy. And without them, we will not turn this situation around.
Thanks very much, Jordan Hill-Lewis from the DA. So, Jeremy, that's some of the expectations from the opposition this afternoon when the President tables that much-anticipated economic recovery plan.
All right, around 2 o'clock this afternoon. Lindsay Dentlinger, thank you very much indeed. Throughout the course of the morning, we have beaten many cliches to death ahead of the speech. High stakes, make or break. You've just heard turning point and crossroads. Well, just how important is all of this? What's the expectation? Now let's turn to our political editor, Vuyo Mvoko. And as Gordon Hill-Lewis from the DA was saying, in many ways this is a referendum on public spending.
Indeed, Jeremy, and in so many respects. Remember, the President said he needed to have all these consultations that he's been busy with over the past couple of weeks, because he needs that overarching social compact, without which he thinks no economic recovery plan would be able to succeed, because you need all the stakeholder constituencies to buy into whatever it is that he is going to say today. It was interesting, in a statement that the presidency released a short while ago, they were talking about the words they chose were widely deliberated economic recovery plan, which obviously tells you that there is no consensus as such. It's going to be a give or take. What it is, of course, is what the President will tell us when he begins speaking at 2 o'clock. But here's something that a lot of civil society and researchers have been talking about the whole of this week, that whatever happens, you should not forget the poor, the old and the infirm. Because if, for example, you come with a plan that, let's say, satisfies a business, you cannot then not ensure at the same time that the poorest are actually taken care of. Now, what that means is that you've got to take money from the national purse to whether it's in the form of a basic income grant or whether it's in the form of a continuation of at least the 350, 100 rands that people have been getting during the COVID-19 pandemic. But the problem with that, as the President's Economic Advisory Council said, is that where are you going to get the money, given that the economy is not performing at all? Now, that's one of the major headaches that the President is definitely having.
Let me throw another headache at you, if I can. I'm just wondering whether we are not investing too much expectation in one speech. There are so many variables, there are so many uncertainties, and the sense that is being created is we're going to get this plan and it's going to be implemented and things will be okay. We are 5, maybe 10 years away from where we need to be.
But that's precisely the reason people expect this one to be a turning point, because everything that has been said and done before has actually not delivered the goods. So the point that everyone is making is that we can't keep saying or doing the same things over and over again, expecting a result. Things have to change, at least this time around. And everyone, I think, understands both the need, to do that, but also the consequences of not doing it. Because, I mean, you do face a very real possibility of unrest. If, for example, you can't give to the poor and the destitute, you do face a very real possibility of unrest if Labour, for example, feels that you are squeezing them, but they are the only ones who must actually make the sacrifice. So the two big trade unions, for example, are with one voice. And remember, they have a history of mobilizing social strikes. I mean, COSATU and, of course, SAFTU is a breakaway, not a breakaway, but, is born out of COSATU as well. They come from that tradition where they say you can't really distinguish between the worker who is exploited on the factory floor, and because that worker is the same worker who has to trudge home to inhumane living conditions, who has to support dozens of people on a meager salary. So You have a concoction there, or at least the makings of a concoction that can actually make the country unstable. And remember, the people or the workers, your police, your nurses, your teachers, these people belong to these unions. Imagine if they were to go for broke.